G'day, welcome back to Project Brupeg, the story of a sunken fishing trawler converting into a global expedition and research boat. Today we're going to be firing up our fuel filter that we built. We're going to be pumping 2 tonne of dead diesel through it. This is the diesel that was underwater, covered in seawater, dirt, mud, diesel bug, the whole lot. We've filtered it through here once before, sent it to a lab and got it tested, and we got a clean bill of health. So today we're getting our fuel system in the trawler sorted so that we can pump this fuel back inside. And while I'm doing that, Jess is going to get the other wing built. It's gurgling. I don't know why it's gurgling.
Oh, that's gurgling.
It's gurgling. That's new.
Hi everyone, thanks for all your positive and constructive feedback. It's a lot of fun watching everyone kind of back and forth with Dame about the sliders and the pulleys and the winches, and great fun to build. We all seem to sort of follow our way through and make good decisions in the end, and the boat's really starting to come together. So this episode's really one of my favourite episodes, all about fuel. I have a real passion for the fuel side of things. We'll be running on veggie oil as well as diesel, at least that's the experiment. We did a lot of research in the beginning. We worked with a German company who helped us understand what we could and couldn't do with our motor, what kind of things we needed to kind of take into consideration. And we're very excited that the bug infested diesel had been, because the boat sunk and the fuel that was in the tanks got, salt water through, and oh my gosh, they were a mess. That we cleaned that and we put it through our filter system, and it's dried out and usable and passed. So you'll see that in the episode. It got the clean bill of health, except that it's high sulphur diesel. So it could have got an A pass, but got a B pass instead because of the sulphur. But fantastic. So really interesting topic. We'll get on to the veggie oil probably once we're in the water. We'll have built in something probably before we get in the water, but we'll sort of refine that as we go, and we'll keep you updated about that. But enjoy the episode.
So long-time viewers will probably recognise our fuel processing unit that we built. We built this so that Brupeg can run on 2 different fuels, straight diesel and straight waste cooking oil. Some people wonder, why are we bothering to try and run a trawler or boat the size of Brupeg on waste cooking oil? And there's a few pretty logical reasons actually. It's better for the motor than low sulphur diesel. It's got higher lubricating properties. It's significantly cheaper. If we filled the boat up with diesel, 45 grand from empty to full. The exact same fill with waste cooking oil is we have change out of 4 grand. So huge price difference. It's much better for the environment. There's a lot less pollution that comes out from waste cooking oil. One of the key things for us is the fact that we can buy it on the international market. We can ship it anywhere in the world that can take a 20-foot container, so most large ports, and then we can manufacture it into a fuel on board Brupeg. So it keeps us independent, and it keeps us sticking to the ethos that is Brupeg. Now I also just want to add, this is not any other discussion other than fuel. I know some people get really triggered when it comes to talking about things that are carbon neutral and what have you. That's fine, be triggered. We're not really interested. This is a fuel conversation for us. It's got nothing to do with politics. But if you're new to the channel, I'll give you a bit of a quick rundown, what it is, what we built and how it works. So this is a gadget that we built a wee while back, and it's designed to basically dry suspended water out of fuel or veggie oil and process it down to 1 micron, and it does all of this at room temperature. Now it works with vacuum. We've got a little 2-stage vacuum pump down the bottom here. That guy there pulls a vacuum. It runs through this pipe you can see leading up, the blue pipe all the way up to the top here. Comes through this little manifold that we built, so ball valve up here, comes through here and pulls the vacuum down into this pipe, which is connected into this 90 litre X LPG cylinder. Now we've got a little gauge so we can sort of see how much vacuum we're pulling at any one stage. Once we've got a vacuum inside that cylinder, we then open up the ball valve down the bottom here, on the bottom of this filter here. So this blue canister is what's called a bag filter, and it's basically a 10 micron filter. So 10 micron is the width of the particles that can pass through it. So if something's 9 micron, it's able to flow into the LPG cylinder. It's 11 micron, gets stuck in the filter. So once a vacuum is pulled on that filter there, it basically, this white PVC pipe is just connected straight down into a tank of diesel. It essentially vacuums it along this pipe, through the blue bag filter here, and then into the bottom of the LPG cylinder down the bottom there. You can sort of see it going straight in. And now this cylinder fills up to about, say here, maybe 80-90% full. And then we close off all of the ball valves. So we shut the valve off like that one is down there. We close this one here off like it is right now, and we open this guy here up, making sure that this one here is turned off as well. And what that does is it allows a vacuum to be pulled on this tank, and then we'll be able to see steam coming out of this vent here on the vacuum pump. And when we don't see any steam, we know that there's no more water in that fuel. And we know this, we've tested it both with a crackle test for veg oil and also at a fuel lab for the diesel. So we know that it works to dry the fuel out. Once we've got a load of dry diesel sitting inside the LPG cylinder, it's been sitting there for about 25 or 30 minutes with a vacuum pulled on it. At that stage it's dry. We then go and turn the vacuum pump off and close this valve at the top here. We open this valve very slightly, and this is connected to an air compressor. Here's our air compressor line here, and that gently applies a positive pressure inside that tank. We can then open this ball valve here, and this the pipe that's connected to this ball valve goes all the way down to the bottom of the tank inside. There's a link in the corner of the screen right now, or in the description, and it shows you the build of this tank so you can understand the internals a bit more. The positive pressure forces the fuel, oil or diesel, whatever it is, up through this pipe here into this bag filter, which is a 1 micron bag filter, and then it goes out the pipe, and in our case straight up and into a diesel tank.
We thought you might like to see what it looks like inside the 1 micron filter. Smelly.
You can see the black crap in the bottom. That's all the shit that's coming out of the diesel. So this is a 1 micron filter, that's why it's like really quite fine. And then
How often do you have to replace that?
so we're doing 2,000 litres, and this will do about probably 5 or 6. Just depends on how dirty the fuel is. Like, we can keep going in that for a while. That's only, I mean, that's done half a tonne of diesel so far, and there's only probably, I don't know, a tablespoon of shit in the bottom. So we should be right. And then you can sort of see there's a little cage in there that holds it so that it doesn't deform, like a little plastic mesh cage, so it doesn't deform when you when you put pressure on it. So it goes through this one first, which is a 10 micron filter, gets dehydrated with the vacuum pump, and then gets pumped out this one, which is a 1 micron filter. It's a pretty simple system. It's a wee bit agricultural, but it works. The plan was to build it to sort of see, okay, can we make a fuel processor that we could then miniaturize and put inside the engine room of Brupeg? And we pretty much answered that question. Yes, we can. That one there is 90 litres at a time, and it takes about half an hour to process 90 litres. It's not real fast, but as a proof of concept it works, and consequently we haven't got rid of it because it just keeps going. We've processed diesel and veg oil through it, both with really good results. So yeah, we're pressing on, and we're filling our tanks with 2 tonne of dead diesel through that fuel filter. To a lot of people it's easy to assume that this is a micro workshop with a uninsulated steel roof and a wall mounted propeller, for ambience and so on, and to a point you'd be correct. But what this actually is the nether regions of a trawler with a leaky bunghole. First job I have to resolve, right underneath the bottom of the boat, you see that dark stain there in the middle, there's a bung. So that dark stain is basically diesel that's leaked out over time and sort of, zapped around that area. Diesel is a fantastic penetrant, so if you're ever trying to leak test a tank and you can't pressure test it, diesel works fantastic for finding holes. It's exactly what it's done here. So basically what we've done, we've welded a stainless nipple into the boat, we've put a bung in there, but we haven't necessarily put enough sealant, or we haven't done a good enough job of sealing that up. So we need to get in there with some proper thread sealant and make sure that that's going to last in terms of never letting our diesel leak outside the boat. So right now I know there's probably 6 people furiously typing into a keyboard, "You can't have a bung in a fuel tank out into the ocean, oh my god, think of the whales." And that's fine, I get that point of view, absolutely, I actually agree with you, think of the whales, some of them are lovely. It's actually okay to have a bung in a fuel tank, you just have to make sure it doesn't leak. So you have to do a few things to make sure that you've sealed it properly and it isn't going to become an issue. And then you anti-foul over top of the whole thing, so not only have you got your thread sealant, you've got your tight fitting, you've also got anti-foul as your last barrier of protection, so you have epoxy under that and then anti-foul itself. It's really common to have bungs in trawlers and ships and things like that. Our boat had 4 bungs in the front tanks for 45 years. She was in survey, and that's a pretty standard and normal thing in these trawlers. They often have a bung into the engine bay, so if you pull the boat out of the water you can undo that bung and anything that's in the engine bay will drain out. If that was ever going to be a problem, the boat would sink. So it's not an issue. I just wanted to clear that up just so that people don't have to write furiously for the next 15 minutes explaining we're about to kill everybody. First things first, this tank has about 60 litres of fuel in it. I've got to get it into the IBC over there. So what I need to do is make a contraption that allows me to empty the fuel out of this tank. Right, contraption made. We've drained the tank, got it as low as I can using the bung itself. What I've done inside, there's only a tiny little bit sitting over here. That's the edge of the tank right there. There's a tiny little bit sitting in this corner, so I've stuffed a rag over in the corner and it's basically soaking up the last of the diesel. So there's nothing around the bung right now. So, bit of brake clean, get right up in there. I pretty much just want to get the diesel to bond with the brake clean so that I can get that thread as clean and spotless as I can. So I'm going to go through now and wire wheel out that thread so that it's spotless. I've already done the bung, you see that came up quite nice. Same material and everything, so similar vintage in terms of its batch, so should come up pretty good. We'll get into that. Right, trick with thread sealant, make sure that you've got everything clean and dry and lovely. Put it on pretty liberally, and this stuff is anaerobic, so it dries when you get rid of the oxygen between the threads, so it basically dries when you tighten it up. So don't be shy with it. You will squeeze some out, but it's kind of better to have a bit too much and have it squeeze out than have not enough and have it leak. So you can see that it's already making a bit of a lip all the way around. You don't have to act real fast with this, it's not like Loctite. Put the socket on properly. Right, that'll do. So give that a bit of time to set. I'll probably start pumping the diesel into this tomorrow actually, just so that I can give that plenty of time. What I will do in the meantime though is start setting up my fuel filter system and then get all the pipe work and everything ready to go so that tomorrow morning we can just start pumping the fuel straight back in. One thing I do have to do before I start pumping that fuel in is fix a small leak that I've got at the front of the tank. I found a little hole there the other day. Yeah, just need to go and fill that up. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Might be a bit hard to see in this light, but if you have a look just over to the right there, you can see, oh there it is, look, that hole there. I just need to plug that up. These access ports are how we actually get inside our fuel tank. So Brupeg has right now 4 fuel tanks and 2 water tanks. They're all, these are the only ones actually that you can't stand up, and these ones are a bit tight, so you kind of got to sit down and work in them. Whereas the ones up the front, you got, I don't know, 3 meters of headroom, so they're pretty palatial, as far as fuel tanks go, I suppose. We are going to be adding a few more, but for now these are going to be our day tanks. We've got one on either side at the back. This one I think is about 2 and a bit ton, maybe 2.2 ton of fuel, and the one on that side over there, the starboard side, that is probably about 2.5, maybe 3,000 litres of fuel, 3 ton of fuel, something like that. So what we need to do with these guys here is this face that you can see here is a steel face, and those studs sticking out are what basically bolt that plate to the steel. Now I have some nitrile rubber that I need to make a gasket that seals that whole thing right up. I need to get 4 of these out of this. I got 2 meters of this stuff. Right, so dump it that way. Lovely. get 6 out of that. Oh yeah! It's a 3mm thick nitrile rubber. It's fuel safe, so diesel, petrol, veg oil, etc. The reason we're using this, previously we've used an aircraft sealant on the tanks at the front of the boat. Trouble with that is awesome when you first put it on, nightmare when you try to get it off. You don't want to get it off, whereas this you can just unbolt it and replace it and use it over and over and over. So that's why we're moving to rubber on all of them, and nitrile rubber basically allows us to use any fuel without it being an issue. It doesn't dissolve. Some rubbers do. Now you've got to be careful because some rubber is food safe, so you can use it on your water tanks, but you can't use it on fuel, and vice versa. This one, I don't know if this is food safe, so you don't use this on your water tanks. But for fuel, perfect. Now I don't have a set of hole punches. They'd be nice to have, but it's not something that I've ever needed in 6 years of building this boat, so they're way down the priority list. However, I do have a little bit of ingenuity. I need a hole punch right now. I have some pipe. I'm going to make one. Given that a hole punch is nothing more than a sharp bit of pipe, probably a little bit more involved in that, but that's what I'm going to make it as. That's my nut, that's my pipe. Yeah, that'll do. Alright, lump of hardwood heading down into the end grain. Let's see if this is going to work. Yes, however I have discovered one other problem. Actually, let's align it using that. I think we need to resharpen.
Never understand the things that we want, but you keep coming back. I want love you don't know, so why are you here? Yeah, I should take it back so that you don't know where my heart is at.
Right, let's go see if it fits. Before I get carried away and go and show you what we're doing with this rubber, I'll actually show you inside Brupeg's rear fuel tank. This is the port rear tank that we're looking at, and this is the one that we use as a day tank. So it's been a while since people have seen inside this tank, but this gives you an idea. So it's a bare steel tank. Right down in that front corner you can see our pickup, and maybe just on the ground there you can see the little bung that we were working with outside. So it is right down in the corner there. Gives you an idea. It's that red line that sort of goes around horizontal. That was the fuel level when we got the boat, and that was bug and water and a bunch of other stuff that was at that level there. And then we drained it. You can see there's another level there. So the bug actually chewed into the grime that was on the side of the tank. And we've gone through and water blasted the bejeepers out of this tank and cleaned it right out. And you can see down on the bottom here there's a couple of squares blasted into that rib. That's to allow fuel to drain out. There were some big areas that used to sort of stick, and I've done that so that I can get as much crud flowing from those back parts of the tank coming out. Out the front here you can sort of see various fittings and so on. That one there is actually our fuel pickup. that so that I can try and suck the fuel out and all of the crud with it and put it through our filters. When you're setting up your boat and you're looking at doing fuel systems and that sort of thing, you want to try and make sure you can get the lowest part of the fuel to be able to go through a filter system. Now, it doesn't have to be the main filter for your engine. Our pickup is about 6 inches off the bottom of the tank, and that's because we want to give it a little bit of fighting chance to not pick up the rubbish that goes right at the bottom. However, we do have a pickup that goes to the bottom, and that allows us to siphon off any water, but it also allows us to basically dump out any real garbage fuel that accumulates down in there. One thing that you'll see when you get like old fuel and it's been sitting in the tank for a while and you go through some rough weather and the water the waves and carry on sort of stirs all of that rubbish up. It'll go into your filters, block it up, and then you've got an engine that won't start because you just can't get the fuel through. That's one of the things that we're trying to mitigate on Brupeg. We do everything we can to have systems so that we can get rid of that garbage, but also have filtration so that we can keep it out. Alright, moment of truth. Did it work? Oh yeah. That will do. This system of access ports here, I believe, come as a kit, so they have basically probably a 1/2 inch thick rim with a 6mm plate that bolts onto the outside, and you just you cut a hole, weld the whole thing in there, and then you've got yourself a bolt-on access port. They're a pretty common standard size. I don't know when the kit was designed, but I'm surmising it was 1476 because these are Whitworth, and as any engineer knows, Whitworths are designed to infuriate people because they're almost a UNC thread. So you can get metric or imperial threads, they're pretty common, you can get them everywhere. However, Whitworths are basically an imperial thread, but instead of a 60-degree V on the teeth, they got a 57, or the other way around, one of them, I can't remember which one. It's just enough to annoy you, so you pretty much can't replace stuff. You know, you can, but it's a specialty thing, and it's just designed to just drive you nuts. There's a few things going on in this part of the tank here. We've got this obvious thing here, which is our sight glass. This tells us how much fuel we've got in this tank, and once we fill up for the first time, we're going to be able to put marks to graduate. You know, every 100 litres or so, we'll be able to, you know, mark it out so that we know exactly how much fuel we've got left in that tank and how much we're burning each day. This second pickup here, this is our main fuel pickup. Now, it goes through the wall into the pipe that comes to about 6 inches off the bottom of the tank, and it comes 6 inches short of the bottom so that you don't pick up the garbage that floats right down into that bottom corner. Now, the edge of the tank is over here, and this pickup is back maybe a foot from the edge of the tank. All of that's done to try and give it a fighting chance of not sucking up rubbish and putting it through the main filter system and into the engine. That's the last thing that you want to happen when you're at sea. We do have redundancy in place for if that happens. We've got hot swap fuel filters and things like that, but we try and design the fuel tank so that doesn't happen in the first place. The last thing that's going on here is this little pickup that's hidden just behind the sight glass here, and that goes off on an angle right down into the very bottom, and it's about 1/2 inch off the bottom of the tank. And that's our water drain. So what that allows us to do is, water's heavier than diesel, so it'll always go down to the bottom of the tank. Because of the gravity pressure of the diesel pushing down, we can just crack that off. We're going to have a ball valve on that to crack that off. Any water and garbage will then come out. We can put it into a bucket and get rid of that. And it means that we can keep the tanks as clean and as free of water, and therefore an environment for bug to grow in. You're always going to get water in a diesel fuel tank, because if you've got your vent open, you've got atmosphere coming in. Inside atmosphere, you've got, you know, suspended water droplets and things like that, which eventually settles down into your fuel as condensation. And inside that, you've got mould and spores and things like that. That's just absolutely normal in the atmosphere, and that's where your diesel bug comes from. So it's really important to run a diesel bug preventative whenever you've got plenty of diesel stored for a long time in a tank that will get air in. That's why they always talk about leaving your boat with a full tank of fuel. And your vents closed. It means you can't get a lot of atmosphere swapping around inside that tank, and you minimise the chance of bug. I want to put a ball valve on that guy right there, and it's so that we can drain off water and that sort of thing. You have to make sure it spins the right way. So again, just using a bit of thread sealant. stoked with that placement. That's how tight pipe sealant sets, in case you're wondering. Final job. I like to always put a bung like this in these ball valves because when this ball valve fails, the bung will stop the crap coming out of the tank and flooding my engine bay. It doesn't have to be super tight. I'm going to be taking that on and off every time we drain this tank, but it's just something that I do just to a little bit of a backup. Righto, it's time. We're going to bolt this tank back together. See you later inside of the tank. Hopefully won't see you for another 2 years. There we have it. Day tank bolted together, looking resplendent with her new nuts. Probably shouldn't have used those words. Resplendent is quite a strong word, I suppose.
We were young and we were free and running, never bothered about what could be.
Forklift would be very handy. I'll just put the windows down so you can I can hear you when you yell to stop or start or whatever.
Yep.
A few years later I started thinking, if it's just love,
Keep going, keep going, keep going.
we're like one and without you I'm sinking. I'm always shining next to you.
Thanks, Ron.
Yeah, thank you, cheers. So we made this here, which is basically a piece of pipe, and you can see I've dimpled the end in so that it fits into our tube nice and snugly. I did it at this end as well, so, and then I'm slid the pipe on. I'm going to Jubilee clip it on. But that there's just essentially a filler neck so that I can jam it down the filler neck of the tank, and it's not going to come flying out. So my assistant will demonstrate. That should work fine.
We'll soon find out if it splashes everywhere.
It'll either work fine or it'll work horrifically.
Maybe when you do the first lot, I'm here and you're down there, and you can turn it off.
Yeah, I'll be far enough away so that the splashes probably won't get me. You have to let me know if it is coming out the wrong way.
Oh, cheers. And you can just switch off the valve.
Yeah.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah. Yeah, like if you're flailing around, screaming and carrying on, and there's like a waterfall of diesel, I'll use that as a signal to go, oh, valve off. Right, vent's open.
Oh, that's the first time.
First time in a long time.
Oh, no, first time ever filling it though.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah. Takes nanoseconds to fill this. That sound you can hear, it's just stopped now. That's the fuel gushing in. It takes so little effort to get this to fill up with fuel. So I'll turn the pump on. That's enough. It's just like a siphon. That's what we want to see. Steam coming off basically means we're pulling a vacuum and we're vaporizing the water that's inside that cylinder. So I don't know, what have we got there? 20 psi. So call it 0.7 of a bar. Negative 20 psi gives you an idea roughly what we're running. So that'll sit there and tick over for about 30 minutes, and then we'll go and dump that into the fuel tank. And at that stage it's dried, and we know that it's finished when the steam stops coming out of that little nozzle thing there. At that stage it's dried, and then we've filtered it down to 1 micron. The second filter is a 1 micron filter, so anything that's come through into the tank now is no more than 10 micron. That's the first filter on the left hand side. The second filter on the right hand side is the 1 micron filter. That's the final filter. So while that ticks away, I'm going to go and get some other jobs done. Okay, you ready? Can you hear it?
Yep, got it. Yep.
So you can see the fuel level just sitting there in the sight glass. Now survey requirement says that you've got to have a ball valve top and bottom on your sight glass. So we've got one down the bottom here, and then we've got another one up the top. The one at the top's open, the one at the bottom's closed. Normally when you're steaming along, you'll have those closed, and that way if anything ruptures that clear pipe, the sight glass, no fuel's going to basically belt out and fill your engine bay with diesel. And then when you need to check the fuel levels, you just open them, check your levels, and then close them off again. So they're only ever open for a few seconds at a time. Now we've put some fuel in here, but we haven't opened the ball valve. So you can see the level currently is about here. That'll go up as soon as I figure out what I'm doing with this ball valve. Whee! There we go. And then close it off again. So simple as that, and it shows you where your fuel level is. Obviously it's in reverse when you're using it, but for filling, that's how we tell.
Cat 1's decided that this is the chair for her. Driver's seat in the lounge.
This is her posse, she doesn't move from there.
Snack time. Last job for the week is to take our 60 metres or 366 kilograms of short link chain in for galvanising. This size chain and this amount normally costs around about $2,000 new. We scored it for $200. We've still got to pay for galvanising, so we'll see how much it costs in the end. Mish was here. Love that.
He does love them.
Can't get enough of the trains. This is a sugarcane train. So cute.
This is what teenager trains look like. So this is sort of some of the worst bits you can sort of see. There's like loose sort of flaky, I can't really flick it off, but there's like loose flaky rust. There goes a bit right in the corner here, you can maybe see down in there. Hopefully it jiggles up enough. They've got a gadget that sort of rolls the chain around and jiggles it up at the same time as they'll leave it in the acid for 3 to 5 days, he said. Normally they'll leave stuff in overnight, but because this is like it is, they said they'll leave it in for a few days and then galv it. So yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting to see how this turns out.
And we're back.
up really nice.
Looks nice and shiny from here.
Yeah. Yeah, you're in there. Thank you very much. No worries.
Thank you.
Don't worry.
See ya.
Cheers. So there's a couple of leaks that you can sort of see there, where it hasn't fully covered it, but 99% of it's
Right,
done
isn't it?
fine. Yeah,
Like a different chain.
yeah, it's going to last us another few years easy.
Beautiful.
You keep telling me you're shy. If smart could kill or die, there's no need to rush. If something is meant to be, I really felt for you and I want you to be mine. 'Cause you make me wanna sing and
About a big stick.
Can you fit any more on?
Possibly. I'm open to the challenge.
What are you doing with this?
This is 6-inch stainless exhaust pipe.
Wow!
Yes. I've got nice equipment for this.
Wow!
The whole thing. Normally it's 100 and something bucks a metre for a new pipe.
Yeah.
So you'd have to get a tire exhaust for 90 bucks.
Wow.
But there's more.
Whoa.
Normally bends are 90 bucks. Sorry. Normally a 90-degree bend is $200 each
Wow.
for like 50 bucks.
That is amazing.
Yeah. That whole thing, without modifying it, is going to be a water trap. So that we just load it and it doesn't get anywhere near the motor.
See, leave Dame alone in the scrap yard for 5 seconds.